I always thought peace had a sound. The soft creak of my wooden bridge, the splash of trout in the creek below, and the wind whispering through the pines. But that morning peace shattered under the roar of a cement truck driven by none other than Karen, the HOA president, waving like she owned the damn place. When that truck cracked one of my bridge planks and dumped half its load into my creek, I realized something important. She wasn't just crossing my bridge, she was crossing me. For 15 years, that little bridge had carried nothing heavier than my pickup and a few neighborhood kids on bikes. I built it myself with my friend Miguel back when Ironwood Creek was just a line on a map and not a subdivision full of rules and people who think they're better than physics. It wasn't a monument, it was freedom. A promise that I could come home without asking anyone's permission. Then came the HOA. I didn't fight it at first. Paid my $50 dues like everyone else. Figured sure a few streetlights, some landscaping, why not? But HOAs grow like ivy, slow, polite, and choking if you let them. And Karen sprouted right out of that ivy like poison. Clipboard queen, always smiling with her teeth, never her eyes. She loved words like compliance, community, and authority, especially when she got to use them on someone else. The first letter she sent me looked friendly enough, courtesy reminder, pastel font, smiley face at the bottom. Said my canoe rack violated setback rules. My canoe rack, 20 feet inside my own line. I sent back a survey stamped by the county proving it. She replied, "Let's discuss at the next board meeting." That was her favorite phrase right after, "for the good of the community." At that meeting, she unveiled a map that looked like it came out of a coloring book, claimed my bridge provided ingress and egress to community amenities, therefore under HOA jurisdiction. I held up my real survey pointed right at the legal boundary and said, "The bridge is my driveway, Karen. It's private." She smiled that tight-lipped smile people wear when they've decided not to hear you. "We'll take this under advisement," she said. HOA speak for, "We'll do whatever we want." 2 weeks later, I woke to the growl of a cement truck shaking the boards of my bridge. Karen sat in the passenger seat waving like it was a parade. That bridge trembled, mud swirling beneath it, my blood boiling above it. I called out, "You're trespassing," she yelled back. "Then maybe you should build a stronger bridge." Mike, that was the moment I knew this wasn't about concrete, it was about control. I put up a sign. "Private bridge 5-ton limit, trespassers will be prosecuted," and chained the approach. The next day the chain was cut, the sign gone. In its place a cheerful HOA notice, "Unauthorized restrictive device. Remove within 24 hours or be fined." I took pictures, muddy boot prints, snapped padlock tire marks. Paper lies. Pictures don't. Soon the neighborhood split into sides. Some said I was being unreasonable. Others whispered that Karen was out of control. Miguel stopped by with coffee and said, "They're bold." I said no. "They're bored. And bored gets you stupid." Karen called another meeting. She arranged the chairs in a circle, always a bad sign when someone wants to steamroll you politely. Her slideshow was titled, "Community Access Plan." Pictures of pickleball courts, smiling families, and a creek without my bridge. I told her again, spirit isn't binding. Surveys are. She quoted HOA bylaws like scripture. I laid out my deed plat and a letter from the county saying the public easement ends 50 feet before my bridge. She smiled and said, "Construction continues." That night I stood on the bridge listening to the creek talk. I ran a flashlight under the beam solid as the day I built it. It wasn't the bridge I doubted, it was people who refused to understand boundaries. When the next truck came at sunrise, I stood in its path. Karen rolled her window down, sunglasses like riot shields. "Morning," I said. "You're over the weight limit." She pointed toward the empty lot. "Community project," she said. "You're obstructing progress." I smiled. "You're obstructing private property." She told the driver to go. The bridge groaned but held. When it was over, a thin crack shimmered across one plank like a warning. That's when I decided if they wouldn't respect limits, I'd teach them what limits meant. Miguel and I unrolled the old bridge plans in my garage. "You want me to fix it?" he asked, "or teach a lesson?" "Both," I said. We modified the midspan plates, replaced the bolts with shear pins that could hold normal loads but would flex under anything heavier than 10 tons. Perfectly safe for cars. less so for cement trucks. We hid cameras under the deck and on the bank. Every license plate, every timestamp. Data, I told him, is just a story with receipts. When the first test truck crossed the bridge, bent slightly, sighed, and straightened. Beautiful. I poured a drink that night and told the creek tomorrow I stopped playing defense. 2 mornings later, Karen returned with 3 trucks, red windbreaker blazing like a battle flag. She waved them forward. I watched from my porch camera rolling. The first truck crossed fine. The second hit the midpoint and physics spoke. A metallic snap echoed across the water. The bridge dipped, the drum tilted, and a gray waterfall of cement spilled into the creek. The driver cursed. Karen screamed. She pointed at me. "You sabotaged this bridge." I walked toward her, calm as a Sunday sermon. "No, Karen. You sabotaged common sense. Police arrived." She puffed up, ready to play victim. But the officer saw my sign, 5-ton limit, and said, "Ma'am, he's within his rights." Her jaw dropped. The crowd that gathered tried not to laugh, tried and failed. That video hit the internet before Sunset Cement Karma. HOA president meets gravity. By the next day, 100,000 people had watched her standing ankle-deep in wet concrete. I didn't post it, but I didn't mind. Of course, she struck back. Cease and desist letters, accusations of endangerment, even drones hovering over my property. I waved at them while drinking coffee in my robe. When the county inspector came, he reviewed my paperwork, nodded and said, "Bridge is up to code." "You're good." Karen showed up 5 minutes later, demanding to know why. He just said, "Because it's his bridge." That should have ended it, but people like Karen don't stop when they're wrong. They just double down. Soon, she filed an actual lawsuit, $250,000 for emotional distress and damage to community property. My lawyer, Lisa Barrett, flipped through the file and smiled. "She doesn't have a case," she said, "but she's trying to exhaust you." I told her, "Then let's make her pay for the privilege." Weeks passed. Rumors spread. Karen faked a new HOA map, moving the property line 50 feet into my land. She didn't know her own treasurer had emailed me the original. So I waited. Court day came like judgment. Karen strutted in pearls, gleaming lawyer beside her, rehearsed to sound righteous. I had 1 binder facts. She had a mountain nonsense. Her lawyer showed the viral photo, the truck half submerged, and said I'd endangered the community. Lisa stayed cool. This case, she told the judge, isn't about negligence, it's about entitlement. Karen took the stand, dramatic as ever. "He told me gravity would teach us boundaries," she said. The courtroom chuckled. Lisa asked, "How many times did your vehicles cross his bridge before this?" Karen stammered, 10 or 12, ignoring the posted 5-ton limit each time. "Those signs weren't official, meaning they weren't approved by you." The whole room laughed. Miguel testified next. "That bridge was overbuilt," he said, "safe for 10 tons, maybe 11, but you don't argue with physics." Even the judge smiled. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. "I built that bridge to carry families, not egos," I said. They ignored warnings. Gravity handled the rest. The judge nodded slowly. Then Lisa dropped the final hammer, the original property map, and the altered version Karen submitted. The difference was obvious. "This boundary shift," the judge said, "is illegal." Karen's face drained of color. Her lawyer tried to recover, but it was over. The judge leaned back. "This court finds in favor of the defendant, Mr. Carter. The HOA's claims are dismissed with prejudice. And Mrs. Peterson, this matter is referred for investigation of document tampering." Silence. Then the sound of 1 gavel strike, sharp as thunder. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. I just said, "Never underestimate a well-built bridge." The next morning, the HOA called a special session. I went. Karen, pale but defiant, announced she'd appeal. I held up a folder. "Before you do, I said you should see this." I plugged in a flash drive. The screen lit up with a federal document stamped red. Private Access Corridor License, U.S. Department of Transportation, 2006. It proved the creek and everything over it was legally private, exempt from HOA oversight. Karen screamed that it was fake. I flipped to the next slide, a letter from the DOT confirming renewal 6 months ago. "Call them," I said. "Ask for yourself." The room erupted. Board members demanded answers. Thomas, the HOA lawyer, revealed she'd used HOA funds, $40,000, to pay for her lawsuit. Gasps. Someone shouted, "Is that why our streetlights don't work?" Karen stammered, "I acted in good faith." "No," I said quietly, "you acted in control." The board voted right there. Unanimous removal. Karen stood, trembling eyes darting, searching for one friendly face. There wasn't one. She gathered her folders, walked out without a word. I didn't chase her, didn't celebrate, just stood by the window watching as she crossed the parking lot, careful now, stepping around puddles. For once she knew better than to cross another line. Later that night I walked onto my bridge. The boards creaked like an old friend stretching. The water whispered below, steady and patient. I ran my hand along the railing, the wood warm under my palm. For months this bridge carried more than weight, it carried truth. And truth, like gravity, never breaks. It just waits. Sometimes the best traps aren't built to catch people. They're built to remind them what happens when they ignore boundaries,